Welcome to the Volpe Report podcast, the state's premier public affairs show dedicated to the topics that matter most to Pennsylvanians. I'm your host, Chuck Volpe. Join us now as we speak to this week's guest.
The following half-hour show is a paid political program and is not endorsed by this station, management, or staff.
The following program is brought to you by Excalibur Insurance Management Services.
We're back after a one-week Easter break that we take every year, and we'd like to welcome to this week's show the Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Dave Sunday, who is currently in the second year of his term, having been elected in the Republican wave that washed over Pennsylvania in 2024. A little bit about Dave's background is appropriate. He was born in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and raised in nearby Cumberland County, Pennsylvania. Right out of high school, Dave enlisted in the United States Navy. After basic training, he was deployed to the Persian Gulf, where he participated in Operation Desert Strike, which was initiated in response to the Iraqi offensive in the Kurdish Civil War. After that mission was completed, Dave was deployed to South America and performed counter-narcotics operations in the Caribbean. Obviously, that experience and background does wonders for an attorney general fighting the drug war on our behalf. Upon completion of his military service, Dave took a job at UPS while at the same time pursuing his college education. While holding down that job, which helped pay for his tuition, he completed his bachelor's degree in finance from the Pennsylvania State University. After Penn State, he went on to the Widener School of Law, receiving his Juris Doctorate in 2007, all the while still working for UPS to pay for his tuition in law school, beside college. While still in law school, Dave also served as a legal intern at the United Nations Office of the Secretariat. He was assigned to the Department of the Peacekeeping Operations. After becoming a lawyer, Dave joined the York County District Attorney's Office as the Chief Deputy Prosecutor of Litigation, supervising major crime cases and the Felony Narcotics Unit, as well as being an advisor to the SWAT team. Dave then ran for and won the office of District Attorney of York County in his own right in 2017, and he served in that capacity until his election in 2024 as Attorney General of Pennsylvania. Dave also has been a federal prosecutor, as he was appointed Special Assistant United States Attorney in the Justice Department for the Middle District of Pennsylvania, where he assisted in prosecuting gangs, illegal gun and drug cases in federal court. Up for discussion today will be General Sunday's participation in a panel discussion hosted by United States Senator Dave McCormick, which also included FBI Director Kash Patel, United States Attorney Dave Metcalf of the Eastern District of Pennsylvania of the Justice Department, as well as United States Congressman Ryan McKenzie. Of course, I was also in attendance at that panel discussion, which is the basis, really, for today's show.
This is the Volpe Report, a weekly news and political interview show examining the latest local, state, and national issues with Chuck Volpe. Insightful, informative, controversial. The area's premier political talk show, the Volpe Report.
General, welcome to the Volpe Report.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Always good to see you, Dave. And the reason for this show in particular, the timing is excellent. This past week, FBI Director Kash Patel came to the Lehigh Valley, and it was an event, if you will, a panel roundtable hosted by United States Senator Dave McCormick. He's the one that brought the parties together. And in addition to Kash Patel, you were a major presenter at that event. I was part of what we'll call community leaders, for lack of a better word. There were a number of various people. There were banks concerned with things relative to finance, fraud. There were a number of members from the, I'll say, the healthcare industry, CEOs or executives of the various health networks, talking about some of their issues with Medicaid fraud, which we'll get to in a minute. And somehow I found my way there at the invitation of Dave McCormick, concerned citizen, Chuck Volpe. But nonetheless, I'd like to begin with up at that head table, effectively with Kash Patel and Dave McCormick, was the Pennsylvania Attorney General, you. Also, I want to say Dave Metcalf was there as well, the United States Attorney for the Eastern District, and of course, our mutual good friend, running for re-election, Congressman Ryan McKenzie. You were a major presenter. So the issue, the subject matter that we began with, I'd like to get right into. Kash Patel, the director, talked about the scourge of fentanyl. And I know that's been a major issue for your office, killing tens of thousands of Pennsylvanians year after year. And there's a lot of issues behind that drug war. Some of it concerns the president in his administration relative to the overflow of people barreling over the border, unaccounted for. Drug mules, the cartels were sending their stuff. So the border's been closed now. That was one of the big steps taken. But his office, working hand in hand with your office, has already started to turn the tide. The war is not won, but you started to turn the tide. So talk a little bit about your role in the scourge of fentanyl that Kash Patel talks so much about. And he needs your office's help as much as the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So go ahead.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's a great introduction, and I'm grateful that Senator McCormick set that up. It was a great day. It gave us an opportunity to highlight the work that we're doing, but it also gave us an opportunity, really more importantly, to listen to the stories from parents who've lost their children to fentanyl overdoses. And that was just unbelievably heartbreaking. So a couple things. The first part of this is we must do everything we can to decrease both the demand and the supply of fentanyl. And on the demand side, that obviously is working with kids and children and anyone that's addicted to keep them from continuing to use. Hopefully they go into recovery, keep kids from turning to it in the first place. That's really important. Equally, if not more important, is the supply. And we heard from Director Patel about the work that the FBI has done working with people overseas to mitigate the amount of precursor chemicals that are being sent here. And that's how they make fentanyl. That's been tremendously successful. We're grateful for it. But that really brings us down to the fight that's happening every day on the streets of Pennsylvania. And that work is being done collaboratively between the FBI, the Attorney General's office, the Pennsylvania State Police, all the local police departments, the DEA, our other federal partners, and we are all working together to achieve that goal. And I'm very proud to say that last year, the Office of Attorney General removed over 50 million doses of fentanyl from the streets here in Pennsylvania. And that goes from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh to Erie, all the way up to Northeast Pennsylvania and everywhere in between. And the only way that work can be done successfully is by working together as a team. We've talked many times about the fact that I was in the Navy, and the only way we could achieve our mission is by everybody rowing in the same direction. And that is what we have happening now, which is so important. I'm so proud of it. And I really want to thank you, Chuck, for highlighting, giving me the opportunity to highlight how proud I am of the work that's being done throughout law enforcement in Pennsylvania.
Well, I sleep safer, and I know my children are all old and grown, but I have 8 grandchildren now. The world they're coming in, one of my oldest is actually a freshman in high school. So, yeah, I mean, that's the issue. Parents, and Kash Patel and you told horror stories. I sat there with a few of the others at that roundtable listening to stories of parents that had lost loved ones. And, what we have now, you mentioned an appropriate kind of a metaphor, if you will, of the reality of what we came off of. We came off a Democratic Biden administration where they opened our border. They were not enforcing. I see every day, and of course the Democrats in Congress are screaming about, God, war crimes. We're blowing up these drug boats. Really? Right. Apparently, they're more comfortable with our children dying in Pennsylvania than the rights of people trying to bring the drugs here. But now that we've closed our border, as we talked about, it takes a village. All of what you said, and it starts with the president, it starts with Tom Homan, it starts with ICE. The folks that have shut down our border, that was a big step. open warfare we've declared effectively on some of the cartels. We're now eliminating people trying to sneak the drugs in. And then you get into our borders, where I think a lot of that burden shifts to you and your office, along with the FBI, of course. Well, I want to say, having heard what I did, Dave, is an amazing result. I know you have a long way to go. But important for me, when you're watching, if you're a sport fan, if you're a sport fan or if you're an athlete and played sports, you can't see it, but when the momentum has changed in a game. You don't know it yet. You can see it, though. You can feel it. It's not something you can even define. You just know when it happens. Well, I'm going to say, listening and hearing what you had to say, along with Kash Patel and the others, the momentum has changed. Is that fair?
100%. And it's important for people to recognize that the criminal justice ecosystem, the bad guy ecosystem, is much greater than our local neighborhood. The end result is in our local neighborhood. But a lot of this stuff starts in far, far away lands. I mean, when you talk about putting pressure on the Chinese government to really stop these chemicals flowing from China into the United States that bad guys are using to manufacture this illegal fentanyl, you've got to hit it from that angle. The border must be secure. You must have a secure border. That just goes without saying. And then locally, we have to do our job as well. Everybody's got to do their job. And this is so important. I just want to make a comment here. We live in this world where, when I was a kid, and maybe you, if you made a mistake, you might not feel well for a day. In today's world, a mistake can literally equal death. And that's not like me being dramatic. It's not hyperbole. It is an absolute fact. And as a parent, I mean, parents are frightened about that. Grandparents are frightened about it. You make one mistake at college, or you make a mistake at a party, and it literally could equal death in that moment. And so the stakes are way, way, way too high to not come together as a team. And that is what we've done. I'm going to tell you right now, I can't be prouder of the work we do collaboratively with the Philadelphia Police Department. We work every single day with Philly PD. We've had huge cases out of Philadelphia. And why that's so important is because now Northeast Pennsylvania, you're in a unique place, because you have to deal with it coming up from Philly, but also coming down from New York. And so that causes a lot of challenges. And that being said, we've had huge busts in Philadelphia that has removed from the system drugs that were heading up to Northeast Pennsylvania. And so that's why this is so unbelievably important.
Well, General, let's segue now. As fate would have it, that day, which was last week, that we were at that panel roundtable, you were just leaving a press conference for one of the largest drug busts in Pennsylvania history that was orchestrated by your office. Talk about what you were involved in there. I think people need to hear about that. Again, it's one of the biggest busts in Pennsylvania history, and you orchestrated it. So talk about that.
So what we see is, and Philadelphia is so important because, again, we're all connected, whether people like it or not. We're all connected. Economically, we're connected. If you have a place where, drug dealers are putting these large drug operations together, that impacts the rest of the state. And so in our effort to take it to the people that are distributing around the state, we've worked very hard. When I say we, like I said, the AG's office, Pennsylvania State Police, Philadelphia Police, local, the Southeast County Police and DAs, where everybody's working together. So we had a group that they've been operating for probably close to 20 years in Philadelphia, North Philadelphia, and they were operating out of what they held out to be a coffee shop. The coffee shop didn't even have a cash register in it. And they were actually cooking crack cocaine on the second floor of the coffee shop. And so we worked, obviously, with the Philadelphia Police Department, and we were able to utilize our investigative resources and build a case. But it was a big case because we're not just arresting the street level dealer, we're arresting and rooting out the entire organization. And that's exactly what we did. And so I left that press conference and literally drove directly to the roundtable discussion where I saw you at that same day. And so I always want to make a point. I'm the one that gets to talk to you about the case, but the police on the streets, the police that are working in undercover capacities, they're the ones that are out there doing the dangerous work every day, and I applaud them and I thank them, and I'm grateful for their service.
Well, I can't help but add, because my audience is probably already wincing, I have spent whole shows, General, effectively character assassinating the most loathsome district attorney, arguably in the country, Larry Krasner, the DA of Philadelphia. And I am very encouraged and excited and happy for you to correct the record, that the hardworking Philadelphia police officers are out there doing their job. I'll say, you know, I wish I'd say coordination with. It's almost despite the lack of backup and prosecution, the teeth that need to come from those arrests. I'm thankful that the Attorney General of Pennsylvania, you, and those police are getting these things done.
Yep. Yeah, the police officers in Philly want nothing more than to get the bad guys. They have a partner in the Attorney General, and through our gun violence task force, through our Bureau of Narcotics Investigations, through our human trafficking section, through our organized retail crime section, and many others, we're working together every single day. We've had multiple big cases like this, and there's many more to come.
Well, that's great news. Let's now turn our attention to another big subject at that roundtable. And this really involves you and your office directly. You apparently set a record this past year for criminal prosecutions based on Medicaid fraud that was occurring in Pennsylvania. At that roundtable, as I mentioned, there were a number of presidents and CEOs of some of the major health network organizations. Lehigh Valley was one that comes to mind, and others that were talking to you and with the director about that. But you especially have apparently prosecuted and recovered $41 million last year alone. You led the country in Medicaid criminal prosecutions. So please talk about that for a second.
Sure. I mean, and again, this goes out to the team in the AG's office. I'm grateful for them and their hard work. But every year a report comes out outlining the Medicaid fraud prosecutions around the country. And the report just came out within the last couple weeks. And Pennsylvania was #1 for the most convictions, Medicaid fraud convictions in the country. And we were number 3. Thank you. And we were number 3 for the most charges filed. And so this is really important because, you know, for people that think that they can commit fraud just without any care or concern in the world for being held responsible, they need to understand that that's not the case. And what really infuriates me about this crime, like we hear about it on the news a lot, you know, but at the end of the day, the Medicaid resources are meant to help people that truly, truly, really need that help. And so what infuriates me is when fraudsters take those resources and then they're not able to be used for people that really need them. And so it's more than just, you know, an amount of money that's taken. It's something that could be going to help people that are in desperate need of it.
You know what bothers me, again, how politicized the world is that we lived in, General, is that the Democrats have seized on that issue. My good friend, and I know yours too, was doing a great job for us in Congress, United States Representative Rob Bresnahan, is in a hard fight. It's one of the targeted seats by the Democrats.
Right.
They've been running commercials against him from the moment he got sworn in, that he's against Medicaid, he wants to cut the Medicaid benefit. And, you know, again, just the blatant lies and hypocrisy by the Democrats. You know, apparently, if you're for eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse, so that the people that are legally entitled and should be getting Medicaid, somehow you're against the whole thing. It's an amazing thing. So you have to fight the PR battle as well as everything else. And it was gratifying to see that we are leading the country in Medicaid prosecutions. One of the things the Democrats have done a good job of, by the way, I'm sure you're aware of this, they have packed the Medicaid rolls with illegal aliens. They have signed them up for Medicaid. And one of the things they've done fraudulently at the federal level is when they turn to the federal government for the reimbursement, you have all of these illegal aliens on working families can't afford health insurance, and yet they're packing the rolls with these people. So that's something that's occurring nationally. So is that something we see here in Pennsylvania? Because I know it exists in the deep blue states.
Well, what I see the most is what I see the most from the perspective I have and what we do with regard to Medicaid fraud in the AG's office are the crimes themselves. And so we see everything from the caregiver who's maybe it's one person who says, I'm taking care of Mr. Volpe, and I did all these things to help him, and none of it ever happened. They're making it up. It's completely fake, and they're getting paid literally to do nothing. And so we have tons of cases like that. We have other cases that are much larger, where there are organizations that have figured this out. And then we have other cases where just last year we've had 2 smaller independent type pharmacies. And I want to make it clear that there are tons of amazing, wonderful independent pharmacies out there. So this isn't an indictment on them, but a few that fraudulently changed. What they did was they held out to Medicaid that they were giving away certain medications, and they did it in a way that they were overpaid for the medications they weren't even handing out. We had another case where someone said they were doing their job and they were giving out medications. This is a caregiver, and they weren't. And the person ended up dying from a seizure that would have been prevented if that person would have been doing their job. This stuff is extremely serious. And especially in a state like Pennsylvania, we have one of the highest numbers of senior citizens in the country here. And so when you look at people that are needing assistance, we have to make sure that it's getting to the places it needs to go.
Of course. Let's turn our attention to one other issue before is our time. We're blowing through it. I know we talked about this you were at my Christmas party in New York at the Pennsylvania Society dinner. We talked about it. Kind of update us on one of your biggest concerns is that children are being preyed upon. I mean, whether it's through TikTok or other social media platforms. And we have not only predators preying on them, you have other people using it to blackmail. Then they commit suicide. I mean, it's a disaster. So take it up wherever you want, General.
Really? I mean, just very simply, our role as adults, my role as the Attorney General, is to do everything in my power to help keep citizens and children safe. And the internet, there's a lot of great things that come with technology and innovation. I mean, we just went and flew around the moon, right? So there's amazing things that happen. But at the same time, like any tool, if it's used the wrong way, it can cause a lot of harm. And so what we're seeing is just a tremendous increase in crimes against children, in people trying to groom children, predators trying to get to children through the use of the internet. This could be everything from a young person on a gaming system where they might think they're talking on a headset to another child, but due to certain AI tools out there, an adult can make their voice sound like a child. We've seen that grooming process occur, which is pretty scary. Obviously, when it comes to chat bots and things of that nature, everyone has seen the stories with regard to chat bots providing children with advice that no parent would want them to get. We've seen them help children, talk them into committing suicide, help tell them how to do it. We've seen chatbots help teach children how to avoid their parents finding out things they're doing. We've seen children turn to chatbots almost like they're a mental health counselor without a true understanding that what they're talking to is a computer program. And those computer programs are holding themselves out to be licensed mental health counselors. So this is all not good. And so we're doing everything we can to respect the good things that come with innovation and technology, but to also fight to make sure that children are safe. We can't put the guardrails up after the crash happened, and we have that moral duty to protect children. So that's how I feel about that.
Right. I'll get you out on this, General. And one other follow-up question first, though. TikTok seems to be a name that I keep hearing in a negative light relative to some of this. And, of course, that was a big issue for the president and for the United States Congress, what to do about them. And, of course, now that there's been pretty much an order given that they have to be owned. They can't be owned by Chinese interests. They have to be owned by American, a majority of it. But TikTok, am I correct? I mean, I only go by what I read and what I hear. It seems like TikTok is one of, when we hear words like indoctrination, grooming, and other things, TikTok seems to be a name that comes to mind. Has that been your experience?
All of the platforms really have come to, in some way, shape, or form, we've come across. I mean, everything from, and I have to be careful that I, name calling certain companies here, but I will tell you that, I'm just trying to think right now, the AG's office, we're litigating with Meta right now. We have open litigation with Facebook, and that comes down to the addictive properties of it and the impact on children. That's going on right now. You hear a lot about the different companies and, the fact that a lot of people don't realize this, but the most addictive properties with these companies, it's the quick videos you see. So you see TikTok, those quick videos, Facebook, the quick videos. You might see that on Snapchat or things of that nature. And so what I will tell you very simply is this, bad guys will find a way to use any technology that's available to try to get to children. And so I think that, all of the companies have a duty to make sure that they create a product that protects children and doesn't put them in a situation that could cause them a tremendous amount of harm.
Agreed. I know real quickly, and we only have a minute left, General.
Sure.
So we have to make it quick. But another thing we talked about at that roundtable was areas of fraud. And one of the concerns, I'm not sure I heard it specific. I know we talked about that, but I don't know if we brought up the subject. Especially vulnerable to these types of fraud you mentioned our large senior population.
Yes.
And they seem to be particularly vulnerable. I know that through AI and other things now, they could now make it look like you're getting a call from a state or federal agency or a local district attorney's office. So real quick comment on that. Any warning for seniors on what they should do?
Absolutely. I mean, if you're with the limited time we have, I'm going to say this, that there are probably small countries out there whose entire GDP comes from scamming and stealing money from seniors in America. And so when your phone rings and you don't know who it is, don't answer it. Let it go to voicemail. When the emails you receive, if you receive an email telling you that you have to do something immediately, that you have to provide money immediately, don't do it. You have the ability to take a step back, take a deep breath, and make the phone calls you need to make to figure out if that is accurate or not. I mean, it's the biggest thing I can say is these scams are so effective because AI has put bad guys in a position where they can specially tailor these scams to the individual, whereas before the same person, they tried to use the same scam on everybody. So take your time, take a deep breath. You don't have to do anything quick. Don't answer the phone if you know who's calling. They'll leave a voicemail.
Well, General Sunday, I want to thank you so much. I know your schedule's busy for your time. We've blown right through a half hour, but I think we covered a lot of important stuff for people to digest. This show will air this Sunday in a few days. So thank you for your time. Godspeed on the work you do for our Commonwealth.
Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate it greatly. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Volpe Report podcast. Be sure to visit our YouTube and Facebook pages for upcoming episodes. You can catch up on the Volpe Report podcast on your favorite podcast provider.